Today about trading pieces, and specifically differences between trading knights and bishops.
Alrighty. What I'm going to do, because we've actually talked a little bit about bishops and knights, so I didn't want to talk about the same stuff, but you could literally write entire books about the differences between bishops and knights. So what I decided to do today, I'm going to show you two games, one where a knight becomes really powerful and one where a bishop becomes very powerful, and just kind of show you those ideas. And then I'll play you all. I'll try to play as many games as I can, and then we will talk. I'll mostly keep my comments talking about bishops and knights whenever possible. So, okay, so here we go. This game, here, I'll let you see my notes over here on the side. It's between Berthold English and Wilhelm Steinitz. Steinitz is the first world chess champion. He was a really great player, and he's one of my favorite players, but he also beat in the first world championship my fourth favorite player. Yeah, I have rank order number of favorite players. But anyway, so you'll notice here that so far the bishops and knights for both sides are actually pretty happy. You've got a knight that has a good spot. This one does too. This bishop is out being active. This one can come out somewhere. The bishop on f8 can move to the long diagonal. This one's kind of stuck, but once this pawn moves, he'll be good to go. So in this game, the bishops and knights are actually pretty happy. So here's a double attack, and it's only defended one time, so you got to do something about it. So in this game, they develop with defense. That's a good move. And then again, this knight attacks the pawn, which is undefended. So you develop while defending. So you can see all the bishops and knights are very active in this game. So this is a very good example so far. So both sides castle, and this knight runs away. And again, now you can see there's going to be a lot of trades because there's a fork here. We've got a queen and a bishop lined up in the middle there. So there's a lot of potential for trading here. So we're going to trade out some of these, it looks like. And now this is a really cool move, because part of the problem is if you don't want them to take your bishop, you have to move your bishop away. But as soon as you move your bishop away, you don't have enough pieces guarding the knight. Actually, I should make those arrows red just to show you threat. So basically, you've got a double threat on the knight because the bishop ran away. So you can't actually move the bishop away. So either you're going to take this knight or you're going to lose this bishop. So watch what happens. They decide to take it because really one of those two things is going to happen. He takes back, he retreats, and they trade out. So now we have a very interesting situation. Basically, it's two bishops versus a bishop and a knight. Everything else is exactly the same. You'll see like we have these three pawns for white, and black has three pawns right across from them. And then, of course, you have the pawns on the other side of the board, too. Both sides also have both rooks basically in the same spots. The only difference in this position is this knight, because they both have a dark square bishop, but then one side has a light square bishop and one side has a knight. So it doesn't seem like a big difference because they're worth the same, but you can notice that when the board is really opened up like this, like there's really nothing in the center at all, everything can move through the middle pretty easily. That's a situation where bishops are very happy. So let's pay attention to the black bishops in this game. All right. So this is a sneaky move, this rook move. If white isn't careful, black can play this move, takes, and then boom. And now he won two pieces for a rook. So Black has 3 pieces. White only has 2. Even though white has 2 rooks, these 2 bishops combined are going to be extremely powerful and very difficult for white to overcome. So, white was actually also a very good player, so he did not fall for that. Oh, whoops. He played this move. So that way, if you take the bishop and the pawn captures back, the knight is not there anymore for the rook to come take it. So that protected the bishop. So you can see sometimes bishops and knights can be kind of, they're very tactical pieces, and you got to be very careful to look for little things like that. So this is the beginning of the end for this knight right here. If I recall, this knight is the one where that's going to not be good. I might be misremembering that, but you can see, like, look at this guy. He can't go forward very well. He can still go here, however, but watch what happens. He retreats, and then c5 happens, and uh-oh, look at that. This knight cannot go there because he would be captured. He cannot take because he would be captured, and he cannot move to d4 because he would be captured. So this knight is not that great. He's kind of stuck over here doing nothing. Meanwhile, these bishops are like sweeping across the board, watching a lot of pieces. So here we go. Just moving along here. We're only concerned about the bishops and knights. Actually, that's an important moment. We've talked about making rooks better. Putting rooks on open files is very important. So the fact that this rook just went there and he's attacking there, you can see this rook cannot move to the file because the other rook will just capture him. So this rook is pretty good right now. He's very well placed. Okay. So we're getting to the critical moment here. Look at this knight. So what would you rather have in this position? This bishop and knight, or these 2 bishops? Personally, these 2 bishops are way better than both of these 2 pieces. Look at this. The bishop on f6 is attacking on the long diagonal. It's guarding a pawn right here, and it can retreat in a couple places if it needed to. This bishop is stuck behind one pawn, and it can't move here. It can't move to d4 because it would be captured, and it can't take because it would be captured. He cannot move backwards this direction because the rook would take him. So he could move here. So basically all this bishop can do is stay right here or move to f2. Otherwise, he's not doing a good job. So these 2 pieces are no good. I mean, the knight is pretty clearly bad. I mean, he's on the back row. He's not attacking anything. He's just back there defending this pawn from the bishop. That's pretty much it. So this is an example of a very poorly placed knight. So that move is sneaky. It takes away the square b3 from the knight so that he can't move back there. And of course, that just defends the pawn from the bishop's capture so this knight can move away. But you can see how slow that knight is. Now, this is a cool move. This is called building a roof on a knight. See, this knight, he can move to these 4 squares. But this bishop builds a roof over top of those 4 squares, you see? So the idea is the knight cannot move there, there, or there without being captured. Now, he can move here because the rook is guarding him. But the idea is if this rook were to go away, then the roof would be complete and that knight would be stuck. So keep that build the roof concept in mind for later in this game. Okay, so we're trading off. So now we're down to basically a rook versus a rook and a bishop versus a knight. So the king's coming over. And now once this happened, it's basically bishop versus knight. But the game is almost over because this knight was so bad the whole time, this king was able to come into the game and this pawn is going to become very powerful. You'll notice that this pawn can't really do anything because if he were to move forward, black would just move over and capture it. So there's not a lot that this pawn can do. So the king moves. They trade off the bishop for the knight because this pawn cannot be stopped from becoming a queen. So he goes there and attacks the pawn, but he doesn't actually take the pawn. He moves this pawn down, and now white has to chase it. And the game ended here, but basically what would have happened is he would have to go like this to try to stop it, but then black would prevent that from happening, and there would get a queen. And then, of course, black would win the game. So you can see how having a knight on the back row and on the edge over here didn't really do much. It was not so good. So let's move on to the next game real quick, and then we'll do questions.
Okay, are you sure you don't want to do questions after the game separate?
I guess we can if we have hands raised. That's fine. So go ahead and we'll get some questions from people.
Sure. If you have any questions about the game we just talked about, where we're showing the power of the bishops over the knights, and specifically where the knights can get trapped, you can ask a question now. If you don't have any questions, that's okay, and we'll move on to the next game. But if you have a question about the game we just showed, I know Hershey had one earlier. Yes.
Sometimes I think knights are more powerful just because they can and lots of times I maybe think bishops are less powerful, but yeah, they are also powerful. I just noticed because now they can do skills.
Yeah, you can definitely, knights can definitely be very powerful. Pretty much every piece can be powerful. That includes pawns and kings too. Every piece in chess has situations where they are powerful, but not always. Every piece also has situations where they are not powerful. And it's important to know the difference because you want to make your pieces powerful and you want to prevent your pieces from becoming powerless. So that's very important. Like this pawn right here, he's a passed pawn. Passed pawns are very powerful unless there's a queen on the board who's going to go take it. In this case, they're not very powerful anymore.
Maybe a rook or a bishop. No.
Yeah, well, a bishop could stop the pawn. It would have a harder time taking the pawn because, like, if I had a bishop right here that was going to try to take it, and the pawn moved forward, it would just sit here and be safe. So,
yeah,
rooks, kings, and queens are the best pieces for stopping.
One game I got four queens and my opponent resigned.
Well, you only really need one more queen than your opponent has. That's usually the case. You don't necessarily need to get 4. That's probably too many. You might get a stalemate if you're not careful. All right. Are there any other questions?
He actually.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Are there any questions? Looks like I don't see any physical hands raised. All right, then go on to the next game, I guess.
Okay. All right. So this game will show a very powerful knight versus a not so powerful bishop. Okay. Oh, and this game is played against, you can see at the top right here, Ruslan Ponomaryov versus Vugar Gashimov. Gashimov is a cool player. He actually plays an opening I really like. I think he passed away unexpectedly very young, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong. I might have the wrong person, but I think he did. But Ponomaryov is alive, and he's a very good player. He's one of the top players in the world. Both of these players are grandmasters. But anyway, here we go. So, as you can see, this is a fighting game where there's been a lot of trades already. And just like in the other game, we've got an open game where these bishops and knights can come out pretty easily. Like pretty much all the bishops and knights are going to have no problem being very active in this game. That's always a sign that a bishop and knight battle is probably going to happen. Okay, so anyway, I believe it's this knight that we're looking at. He moves a lot in this game, but he's always doing some cool stuff. Okay, so here, he's threatening this pawn, and it needs to be defended. So they bring this pawn forward to defend it, and the bishop guards it, so we cannot just take it. That's very important to notice. The bishop comes out, kicking that knight back, and we take a knight. And there's one thing that's very important. When you use a bishop for a knight capture or a knight for a bishop capture, you got to be really, really, really certain that you don't need that bishop anymore or you don't need that knight anymore. So like in this position, black is basically saying, I don't need my dark square bishop for the rest of the game. If he did need it, then capturing would not be a good move. So that's what this game is actually about. It's kind of like saying, okay, we're going to see how this game goes. So what's very interesting about this position is both sides have the exact same amount of pawns, and they both have the exact number of rooks and knights and bishops. But there's one big difference. This is a dark square bishop, and that's a light square bishop. So those two bishops cannot actually fight against each other. They'll never ever see each other in this game. So that's a very important thing. So Ponomaryov moved his bishop to attack this pawn, and he moved it away from the knight being able to take it. The knight gets in the way, which is just fine. That's a good move. And of course, now the knight retreats, threatening the bishop again. No problem. Now, Ponomaryov decided, I'm going to guard my bishop with my knight, like this. And if they do take it, he'll take back, and that's fine. But he's basically saying that he does not need a light square bishop for the rest of the game. He wants to keep this knight. And white says, no problem, I want to get rid of your bishop. So now we have a bishop versus a knight. And a lot of people prefer the bishop when this happens. However, this knight is very, very good in this game. So he moves there. This is kind of a weird reason. The reason he moves there is this knight can go here, and he's going to take this pawn with a fork. And there is no way to guard that pawn. If the rook comes up to guard the pawn, well, the knight could take him. And that's no good. So basically what happens is, instead of playing a silly move like h3, he plays c3. So now he won't lose a pawn, and he can just move a rook, and there won't be a fork anymore. But he does this weird move. Now this is a cool move. I'm going to explain. This knight is really happy sitting right here. He's got great squares he can see. He can move forward potentially. He's also stopping a lot of the moves that white might want to make. But one thing that white could do is play g4, attacking the knight. Unfortunately for white, black played h5, guarding that square. So now the knight is very happy. So sometimes your other pieces can support your knights and bishops very well. All right, so here we go. Bringing all of our pieces out. As you can see, we are not trading our knight for the bishop. And this bishop is a bad piece on the same square that the knight, I believe, was a bad piece on, if I recall. Let's go find out real quick. Yep. See, when this knight was a bad piece, he was on c1. And in this other example, the bishop's on c1 now. Now, c1 is not a bad square for pieces all the time, but in these two examples, it was. But you can notice that this bishop is blocked this way. He can't move that way. He can't move here because the black rook will just take him. So that's no good. And if he moved here, this is probably his best move. And it's a reasonable move. But there are some that come up with that move. So let's see how this game goes. Basically, he's attacking with both, making it a little difficult to move there. And as you can see, this bishop is not doing a whole lot. A lot of people might think, oh, this knight's not doing a whole lot either. He's just sitting there. He's not actually attacking. He's not moving. He can't go forward. Well, that's true. But at the same time, notice that this rook can't come over and attack our king either, because the knight's watching. So that's kind of important to know. This knight is very good. He can also move over to here and into this square instead. He could move here and then to that square. Like he has a lot of stuff that he can do. Look at this bishop though. This bishop can't do anything. Even if it moves here, where does it go? What's the point? It can't go anywhere. If it goes to d4, then the knight and rook will capture. First the knight will capture. It'll go like this. Knight captures, pawn captures, and then rook takes. So what will have happened is white will lose 4 points and black will lose 3 points. And then black would just be winning. So you can see this knight has a lot more that it can do versus this bishop here. So they keep moving around. You can see that kind of useless move of the bishop. He just kind of goes back. There's not a lot there for him to do. And then, yeah, here we go. That's what I was talking about earlier. See, this knight, he moved into here. Now he's got a fork, and the rook has to go defend that pawn. No problem. And now he moves into here, or he can move into d5. He can also move back to g4 potentially, depending on what white does. So here we go. This is the final stretch of, well, not the final stretch, but it's almost the final stretch of the game. Here we go. So now we have an interesting situation. It's kind of the reverse of build the roof. See, this is the roof because the knight can technically see all of these 4 squares. So the bishop's doing that, but it's more like the knight is trapping the bishop this time because the knight is in the middle of the board doing such a great job of being active and looking at like that. He was watching that pawn. Now the pawns move forward, which frees the bishop a little bit, but probably too late. So watch this. They're just bringing their kings into the middle. That's a normal thing you do in the endgame. This bishop still has nowhere really that it can go that's useful. And now we have this passed pawn problem. So now the bishop comes over here to guard against the passed pawn moving forward. No problem. Here we go. And you take that pawn. So now there's a big problem. The problem is there's a passed pawn on this side of the board, and white's king is on the wrong side of it. So it's all up to the bishop to stop it, but he can't actually stop it. Watch what happens. He's in the way. White goes and wins the pawns on this side of the board, so that black doesn't have to worry about white, moving their own pawns down the board and getting a queen. So he goes and stops those. And now this pawn is 1 square from making a queen. We have to be very careful, though. How do we get the queen? All of these moves are kind of crazy, but as you can see, now we take the bishop because it couldn't go anywhere. And that's a fancy move. Basically, no matter what, when the king moves to any of these 3 squares, the other king can come out. And that's a clever move. So if he takes there and you go there, you make a queen. Oh, no, that would be bad. You make a queen and you win the game. So the point is, your bishops and knights are only as powerful as you make them. If they are stuck on the back row or stuck behind pawns, they're not going to help you do a whole lot. So it's very important that you pay attention to how good or bad your bishops and knights are, and you want to try to improve them. We've talked about support points for your knights, and we've talked about that for bishops. Those are the kinds of things you want to keep in mind. And if you ever want, don't forget you can go to our website and review all of the past videos that we've given so that you can try to remember stuff like this. Okay, so anyway, all right, I've got a bunch of challenges here, so I'm going to take this first one. All right, a 2-7 game. That's going to be a fast game. I'm playing, I believe that's you. All right, so the battle of the bishops and knights has begun. I like to bring out my bishops and my knights every game. It's very important. All right. Attacking my pawn, but I'm going to ignore it. I'm not worried about it. Is he worried about it? Oh, he's going for my f2 square. See, he's trying to double attack me. No, sir. I will not allow this to happen. See what you do. That was a pre-move. That makes it... Oh no! Oh no! You have lost a piece. You have some tricky stuff you can do. Uh-oh. Let's see here. You're giving me a lot of options here. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run away to here and see what you do. Okay. I will take it. So I have more pieces than you right now. So we'll see what happens. I will bring out my queen because you brought out your queen. Alrighty, so now there is one thing that we did not talk about today. It is when you have more bishops and knights than your opponent. That is also good. So currently I have more, and they will become overwhelming. That means they're going to attack a lot, and it's going to be difficult to stop them. All right, so all my bishops and knights are out. You can see they're all on the queen side, so I probably want to focus my effort on that side of the board. think that's a good idea. Let's see. I will just move back. I don't think I gain much from doing that. Doing a check, it doesn't always help. All right, I'm going to take over this file here. I'm controlling the D file for the moment. All right, I'll trade it. So that way it's bishops and knights versus a rook. I think that's kind of fun. So, all right, we're going to start off by taking here. So I've got 3 pieces and he's got 1 piece.
I think the fact that your knights defend the open file is also important.
They do. They did not defend this square, but yes, on its own, that square is not a big deal. So now I'm going to retreat here, attacking his rook. I'm even telling him that. I'm going to get your rook if you don't move it. Okay, he moved it. Darn it. How did he know? How did he know? All right. I'm not going to let you use your pen against me. No, no. No pen for you. I cannot allow the pen. It's against the rules. All right. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna use my bishops and knights to take these pawns over here and then try to make a queen. That's my plan. I'm telling you my plan in advance so that you know it. All right, I'm blocking your file. See, rooks are extremely effective when there are open files. But when you shut the files, they have trouble. Even if you shut the files down with pieces and not just pawns, it can be very powerful to do that. All right, I'm going to go here. Threaten this pawn. He also has to constantly worry about where he puts his rook so that I may not take it, because if I take the rook, he's doomed. His only hope is the rook. That's the only hope. Okay. I am going here again. I keep trying to put my bishop there, and you keep forcing me to move it. Aha. That's a good move. Let's see. I will move here. I think that's a good move. Because I think it's annoying to have that bishop in the middle of the board. So I will defend him. All right. I will take that, definitely. I have no choice. And now I will take this. All right. All the pawns are going off the board for black, and then white's going to have 3 pawns. Although I don't really need to take this pawn, but if he gets his rook back there and takes that pawn, I'll be in trouble. So I'm going to go ahead and eliminate that pawn just to eliminate it. But you see, when you've got this many pieces versus a rook, they're pretty good because they guard everything. And that's pretty powerful. So I'm going to move right here. And then show the power of the H-pawn. There it goes. The H-pawn also has a friend, the F-pawn. So the idea is your king can't stop both of them. He can stop one of them, but he can't stop both. So you're going to need to use your rook. Exactly. Oh no! Oh no! Abandon all hope. Hope for, I guess you have hope for a stalemate. There's always hope for a stalemate. All right, it's getting close. Will you stalemate me? Or will I stalemate you? Let's see. I'm going to go here. And then I'm going to go, can't go there because that'll be stalemate. If I go there, I could just move a pawn actually. But see, I basically need my knight. Yeah, I need to get a knight here and there. That's what I need to do. So let's move this guy back this way. All right, here we go. Got to show off the power of the knights. Yeah, see, this guy's not quite where I want him to be, but Actually, I know what I can do. Here we go. Here we go. I figured it out. Sorry. I'm not fast at solving these knight checkmates. Okay, so I need the knight to do check. Okay. There we go. Aha, fancy. He figured out the trick. Okay, no. Yeah, you can go there. Here, I'll highlight your square. Yeah, I'm not going to fiddle with this. I want to play other people. Make sure I get them.
Let's run with the +7 game.
Yeah, that's true too. Okay, if I go there, you can play there. I will not just get another knight. I think that would be silly beans. And I do not want to be silly beans today. I call this the merry-go-round. It's the king will have no choice but to constantly move backwards while the knight guards the queen. It's very common. Aha. Yeah, the knight and queen is actually a really great chess combination for attacking. They're very, very powerful together. All right, so we're going to go there. And now we have checkmate in 2. We'll bring you back. Good game. Oh, I have 12 challenges. Oh, wow.
Everyone wants to.
Well, some of them are somebody playing the same game over and over again.
Someone may have
here we go.
accidentally put it in too many times.
Yeah, and feel free to be to make me the black pieces if you all want. That's
see
fine.
the rest of the board.
Huh?
A player saying that they had trouble seeing the board. I'll find out.
I mean, it's screen shared, right? It says you are screen sharing, so the problem is not on my end, I don't think. All right. My knights and bishops are pretty happy. You've got a bishop right here. He's kind of stuck. But your other knights and bishops, or bishop, are okay. So maybe you can try to unstick that bishop at some point when it's safe. All about the knights and bishops today. I'll go there. There's some risk with putting that bishop there, but it's okay. We're doing bishops and knights today, so that's how it goes. It's how it goes, team. Interesting. All right, let's trade off this way. All right, so I have a pawn. Only one pawn, but one pawn can be a big deal. Now I have a fork too, although it's not a big deal of a fork because they can get out of it. It's not like I'm going to win a piece or anything. But it is a good fork. Boom. Take that bishop. Oh, you did too. You took it back. No problem. I'm going to castle. Make my king safe. Aha! You have castled queenside. All right. What do I do here? I'm going to throw my pawn at you. That's what I'm going to do. My goal is to attack the queen side using my bishop and knight and probably rook and queen. Possibly a pawn or two, depending on what Abder 2009 does. Moving the pawn. Making a simple threat against the knight on c6. Or a simple attack. That's what we taught you all. It's a simple attack. Just when one thing attacks one thing and that's it. Nothing else there. All right. didn't make a threat, so I can continue my slow attack. Very slow attack. But you have a good knight in the middle of the board. I can kick him out when I want, but for the moment, he's pretty good. This guy right here, he's pretty good. Yeah. I think these pawn attacks are... Oh, we have an opportunity here. We have an en passant moment. So everybody watch this pawn right here. He's going to mysteriously disappear. How did I do that? That is en passant. If you don't know that one, I suggest you learn it because it's important. All right. What I'm seeing is there's a lot of space next to that king. And the pawns are kind of far forward, and this one's alone. So we have some queenside attacks coming up that should be pretty good. This bishop's attacking that pawn. That's pretty good. All right, so you block it. I didn't want you to do that, but no problem. All right, I'm going to move here. That rook is uncomfortably looking down here next to the squares where the king is. It's very dangerous for the black king right now. Very, very dangerous. Got to get my queen over there. Probably like this. Possibly at the d5 square. Maybe. We will see what happens. All right, I'm going here. This is probably the beginning of my attack. Because I'm forking 2 pawns. It's getting uncomfortable. All right, so you defended that pawn, no problem. I will take right here with a fork on the king and the queen. What shall you do? What shall you do? He took. All right, I'll take back. So I got a rook for a knight. But there's a scary situation on the board right now. Scary situation. Very scary. Uh-oh. That did not quite meet the threat. Good game, Abner 2009. All right, everybody. That is it for today. We will see you all who sign up for the August lessons next Tuesday. And those of you who want to play this Friday at 4 o'clock in our weekly event, that's good too. So we will see you then.
Goodbye.